Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at the experiences of international students here in Texas, particularly those in college.
Yeah.
And we're going to be drawing on a really interesting doctoral dissertation that specifically focuses on students from Asia,
Okay.
as well as some other related studies. So,
I think what's really cool about this deep dive is we get to kind of zoom in on the day-to-day realities for these students. We talk about diversity in these general terms, but this research really lets us get down to like the nitty-gritty challenges and opportunities that they're facing.
absolutely. So, imagine you've just arrived in Texas. You've come from China, India, somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be like a whole other world, right?
It is.
And the dissertation highlights this massive increase in international students in Texas, especially from these countries.
Right.
And, on the one hand, it makes our campuses more vibrant, more global, more connected.
Sure.
But it also kind of makes us ask, well, are we actually ready to support these students?
Yeah. And that's where this deep dive gets so interesting because it doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
Yeah.
One of the main things that popped out to me was language.
Right.
We all know it's important,
Of course.
but this research goes way beyond can they understand the lectures.
It's about belonging, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you're trying to make friends, trying to connect with professors, even just trying to, order food.
Right.
It must be incredibly overwhelming when you don't quite have the words you need.
Exactly. And think about just how isolating it must be.
Oh, totally.
To not be able to fully express yourself.
Right.
This study actually found that almost half of international students experience high levels of stress. And a big part of that is because of these language barriers.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just about academics. It's about feeling connected,
It is.
feeling understood.
Absolutely.
And the dissertation uses this phrase, academic culture shock, which I thought was really interesting
Yeah.
because it's this realization that how you learn and what's expected of you in the classroom can be totally different depending on where you come from.
That's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
So like think about a student who's spent years in a system that emphasizes, rote memorization.
Right.
You're not supposed to question authority.
Right.
And then suddenly they're in a Texas classroom where they're expected to debate, to think critically, to challenge ideals,
To be independent.
speak up.
It's a massive shift.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy. And what the dissertation points out is that a lot of these students feel like their professors just don't get it, right? They're being judged or they're seen as less capable because they're struggling with this massive adjustment.
And it's not just the classroom, though, is it?
No, it's not.
I mean, the social scene can be just as challenging.
It is.
You want to make friends, but even just basic interactions can become kind of minefields of misunderstanding because of cultural differences.
Absolutely. Things like personal space, directness, even just how you view time,
Oh, God.
it all comes into play.
Yeah.
The dissertation talks about how in some cultures, being a little late, it's no big deal.
Right.
But here in Texas, punctuality is super important.
Oh, yeah.
And these things, they might seem small, but they can cause a lot of friction
Yeah.
in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just adds to that feeling of, am I doing this right?
Yeah, it's like you're constantly trying to figure out the unspoken rules of the game.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must be exhausting.
Exhausting. Yeah, totally. And it's,
Yeah.
it can be really tough.
Yeah.
But here's what's amazing.
Okay.
These students, they're so resilient.
Right.
They find ways to adapt and overcome.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
I mean, it'd be so easy to just give up, but they're actively trying to find solutions.
Right?
Like the dissertation talks about how many of them really focus on improving their English skills.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just about, passing a test or something. It's about actually connecting
Yeah.
with people,
Yeah.
feeling more confident.
Totally. They're joining English conversation clubs, writing groups.
Oh, wow.
They're even using social media as a way to practice.
That's great.
It's like they're turning everyday life into a language learning opportunity.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too.
And it's not just individual effort either.
No, it's not.
The research really highlights how important community and peer support is.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Those first few weeks in a new country,
Yeah.
to have people who get it,
Yeah,
to have people who can share advice, that must make all the difference.
it does.
It's like a built-in safety net.
It is.
And the dissertation specifically mentions cultural societies and peer support groups
Yeah.
as being really crucial for these students.
It's a space for them to celebrate their own culture,
Yeah.
connect with people from similar backgrounds,
Right.
and just feel seen.
To feel understood.
Ax-
And what's interesting is that these groups, they often go beyond just, social support.
Yeah.
They share practical information, too,
Sure.
about navigating the university, finding housing, even dealing with homesickness.
Right. Like how to actually live in Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 It's like how to survive and thrive in Texas 101.
Exactly.
But it's not all just these informal networks, is it?
Right.
The research found that a lot of international students are using official university resources, too.
Oh, yeah. They're really good at taking advantage of things like counseling services,
Right.
time management workshops.
Academic advisors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything that can help them adjust
Right.
and succeed.
Yeah. It shows they're being proactive
They are.
about their well-being
They're sure.
and their studies.
Yeah.
So they're not just passively accepting these challenges, are they?
Nope.
They're actually looking for solutions,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of brings us to what universities are doing to help.
Right, because the dissertation is very clear on this. Universities have a huge responsibility.
Right.
It's not enough to just say, welcome.
Yeah.
We need to give them the resources
So support.
to actually thrive.
Absolutely. And it's good to see that many universities are actually stepping up.
They are.
They're offering more comprehensive orientation programs,
Mm-hmm.
language support,
Yeah,
cultural sensitivity training for faculty,
right.
even mental health resources tailored to international students.
It's so important.
Oh, it is. And one thing that stood out to me in the dissertation
Yeah.
was this idea of expanding the social engagement and leadership program.
Oh, the SLP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it already helps students develop leadership skills, connect to the community.
Yeah.
But imagine if we brought international and domestic students together.
I know that would be fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about fostering cross-cultural understanding,
Yeah.
creating a more inclusive campus.
Mm.
And the dissertation also mentions this program could offer workshops
Oh, yeah.
on communication styles,
Mm-hmm.
conflict resolution.
Navigating cultural differences in the workplace.
Right. I mean, these are valuable skills.
So valuable.
Yeah, and it's not just about making students feel welcome, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about giving them the tools they need to succeed
Yes, in a diverse world.
in a globalized world.
Yeah,
And the dissertation also highlights peer mentorship.
yeah.
Pair a new international student with someone who's been there.
It's invaluable.
Right. They have a friend who can help them navigate everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
University life, Texas culture.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't forget about the financial side of things.
Oh, of course not.
A lot of international students are dealing with huge financial burdens.
Tuition's expensive,
It is.
and they don't have access to the same scholarships and financial aid.
Right. It's a major source of stress.
It is.
And, it can even force some students to drop out. The dissertation emphasizes that we need more scholarships for these students.
Yeah.
And more opportunities for part-time employment.
Absolutely. Level the playing field.
Right.
You
So
know,
we've covered a lot.
We have.
We've talked about the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but also their resilience
Yeah.
and what universities are doing to help.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to the key takeaways,
Yeah.
I want to hear your initial thoughts.
Okay.
What really stood out to you?
I think what really gets me is we often talk about international students in terms of, their economic impact or their academic contributions. But this research really shows us the human side of it.
It does.
The resilience, their determination, even their struggles.
Yeah.
It's all part of the story.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that behind all the statistics are real people,
Mm-hmm.
figuring things out in a world that's often pretty unfamiliar.
Yeah, and it challenges us to go beyond just acknowledging diversity to actually creating a sense of belonging.
Yeah, you can't just say everyone's welcome
Right.
and then not do anything to actually support them.
Exactly. You have to back it up.
You got to create an environment where they feel valued and
To
supported.
support it, yeah, where they can actually succeed.
Yeah, so let's kind of step back and pull out some key takeaways from all this.
Okay.
I think the first one is that international students bring a ton of value to Texas.
They do.
I mean, they enrich our campuses
Yeah.
and our communities with all these different perspectives,
Mhm.
experiences, talents.
It makes Texas a more vibrant place.
Yeah, absolutely.
More globally connected.
For sure. But we also can't ignore the fact that they face some serious challenges.
Right.
I mean, we talked about the language barriers, the cultural differences,
Academic pressures.
the financial burdens.
Yeah, all of that.
And all of that can have a real impact on their well-being
Absolutely.
and their ability to succeed. And that's where universities really need to step up.
Yeah.
They need to provide strong support systems,
Yeah.
resources that are actually tailored to these students' needs.
And approaches that are culturally sensitive.
Yeah, it's not just about checking off boxes.
Yep.
It's about genuine inclusion.
Absolutely.
And the research did highlight some good examples of what universities are doing. The language support programs to connect students from different cultures.
The mentorship opportunities.
But there's always more that can be done.
Always.
It's a constant process of, evaluating those programs,
Yeah.
listening to what the students need,
Absolutely.
and being willing to change and adapt.
To innovate.
Yeah. And this responsibility, it doesn't stop at the university gates, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I mean, we all have a role to play in making our communities more welcoming.
Think about it, you're in a new place, everything's different, the language, the customs, how people interact,
Right.
just the smile,
Yeah.
a friendly greeting, an offer to help.
It can make such a difference.
You can make them feel less lost.
Less alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it's the smallest things that matter most.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
All right.
In a world that's becoming more and more interconnected, how can we each contribute to making a more supportive and welcoming environment?
Not just in universities,
Yeah, not just in universities,
but in our community.
but everywhere.
For international students.
Something to think about.
And something to act on.
Yeah, for sure, because even small actions can make a big difference.
They can.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope it's given you some new insights and maybe even inspired you to learn more about the experiences of international students in our communities.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
See you then.